All right, so now do you see the toy example I created above, this little thing? Now let's put it in and use it for real. So over here, I did the same thing. You create a form, put a title in, but what I did here was I actually created a list of URLs that I'm going to use for my image selection. Now these images sits on my Google Drive. So if you notice here, inside my images folder, I have a bunch of photos that I downloaded from that website, this website. And what I can do, and this is the trick, in order to display them in a notebook, in the Colab notebook, you need to do a couple of things. You got to get to your Google Drive. So you click here, say Get Shareable Link, and it gives you a URL. And that's the one you're going to copy. And when I did this, I just copied each image and I put into Notepad like so. All these links. And then I replaced the word open and I replaced it with the word UC. And it puts it into this My Drive images. I select an image. So I choose this guy and it updates over here. And then there's some additional code written here that was in your notebook that you uploaded to Colab. And it's going to use this function and it's going to point to my drive that I dynamically populate from my drop list over here. The render factor, it's set for 10. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that up to about 35. And I'll show you why in a second here. Let me first run this. It's going to go by pixel and try to figure out the color of it. And notice it pops up here. Now this is a rather large image, but let me show you. Still though, this is a black and white image, and this is what the deep neural net has colorized it into. It looks pretty darn good to me. Look at all the hairs, the strain of each hair, the eyes, around the eyes. The lips look a little fainted. I don't know. Nobody knows how much red did she have on her lips at the time when this was taken. It's impossible to say. Was it even red? We don't know. And that's one of the problems with this, is that unless you have the historical facts, it will colorize the image according to what it thinks it is, meaning what it's been trained on. These earrings, was that the color of these earrings, or were they blue? Was it, a different shine to them? We don't know. The eye colors, is that correct? We don't know. Unless you have the actual image or the actual person and all their attributes, you're not going to know. But it kind of makes sense. The skin tone looks correct. It looks very kind of bluish here. There's a necklace here. It kind of looks correct to me. Like it's like glassy, diamondy, like kind of things to it. Remember, this is a neural net colorizing this, and it calculates all these based on what it's seen before. Here is an example of what the original photo looked like. This is the classic photo that I downloaded from that website. And here is what it translated to. We want to try to render these images, but we want to try to make it look as good as possible, or most as realistic as possible. So it's running now, and we'll look at the results when they come back. So now the function is done. It ran for a while. It takes a while to do this because what this particular piece of code is doing is it inspects every image and it runs it for every rendering. So it's going to do a lot of loops, and you just have to be patient for it to finish. It's not terribly bad. It takes a few minutes, but it takes a little more time. So be aware of it. And you can see the output of this function says this is the render factor of 10. And if you keep scrolling through, it goes all the way through, goes to 44. Now, if you look at 44, the whole image start looking a little bit, too much colorized. It starts looking blue or black down here, almost not too realistic. The one thing I noticed though is that this particular image uh, actually was best at the low rendering rate, which is kind of not always typical. But if you scroll all the way back to 10 of the rendering factor, notice this area looks a lot more natural, but the necklace, it doesn't have that white shine to it. So as you move, it changes color. Here's more reddish tint to it. Now we're at 34, 36. The necklace looks better, but this part looks worse. So it's a matter of, okay, what do you prefer here, It's kind of up to you to find a medium of this, I guess, because it's as good as it's going to get. If you care about the skin color, you probably go with 10, right? Because that looks very natural, but the necklace doesn't look natural. So this will give you an idea of how you can try to test out and figure out what's the best rendering factor to use, which is this parameter. And it says to I here because it keeps looping and increment this number. Last thing, you should be able to download these images by right-clicking on them. Let me see if I can show you that. Save image as, and there it is.